like we talked about, there's open models you can have conversations with, but when you start introducing very specific external knowledge to the model, you want to reduce hallucinations to the model so it just doesn't make up stuff. So, and we want to give the large language models access as needed to so they can interact with your own source of data. Then I think that's where RAG comes into play. So it has a place in it. It's not completely insulated. Your data still has to be exposed. I know there are other techniques you can use to mask it so your data never gets part of the big training models. But if you keep that aside, I think just as an overall, RAG is a great tool that we have right now to use external data, reduce hallucinations, and then be able to keep your conversations to what you have. So that's what the demo is going to be. As I'm pulling that up, do you have any thoughts on where RAG
Absolutely.
makes the most sense for tools?
Absolutely, Rajni. I think the thought process is 100% in a sense that you have these models that are trained with a broad array of knowledge. It has detected all kind of patterns. It has this knowledge base, right? Now you wanna use that general knowledge, but you want to get specific. What do? Now you show your specific data to it and say, hey, speak my conversational style, infer from this and talk to me back, right? So essentially, that's what I think people are now. I mean, search has been there for a very long time, right? Google had search, Microsoft had search, everybody had a search engine, right? So what's special this time? Why do you need to do RAG? Because of this conversational style, right? So now I can talk to the system, right? Previously, it was a Google search, and you have to go edit the text, you have to minus this plus that, figure out some way how to actually ask the question so it'll give you the answer. Now this is making it very easy to communicate to your data. So I agree. Yeah, you have to expose the data a little bit. There's no other way.
Perfect. So what I've set up here is we have OpenAI API where the data goes back and forth. But what we have in between is our Pinecone and Canopy. So we don't. I'm not going to do details about it, but the demo will show you how the answer. So what the underlying data that we are external knowledge we've loaded for the testing is a lot of technical papers, like a paper from OpenAI, a lot of different papers. So that's what's in the data. But when you ask the question with RAG and without RAG, it's still all going to OpenAI and coming back. You can see the difference between when you ask data questions very specific to what was in the database, in the knowledge base that we gave it, the answers are different because some of them it's a large language model. They might not even understand the context of what we're asking. And then subsequent questions you're asking after that, also you can show the value of having RAG and the context, right? So that's really what I want to show. I can share my screen now.
That's going to be exciting to see how the response differs, because some of the papers may not be scraped and included in the general model, the bigger model, right? So maybe it's your private data.
Perfect. So what you're seeing is the first question I asked, and again, you can see there's two. The question on top is who are you, and then you'll see it with context and without context, which is no RAG. So right now it's like I'm the virtual assistant trying to help you, and then the other one is just what you would get if you go into OpenAI and ask this question directly, right? So
It's a
that's
pass
just
through,
the
yeah.
basics, just to make sure it's working. But now the next question I have is a very specific. Again, doesn't matter what the question is as much as this is one of the authors in one of the papers about weight decay. It's a popular framework, but we're asking a very specific question about who is this person. Okay.
You want to change the tab or change the question. There you go. Yeah.
Who is this person and what he said, right? So what should be the answer is if you with context, you should be able to tell you exactly who this person is, or not who this person is, at least what this person said about weight decay. And without context, it should just go straight to OpenAI to ask this question. So let's see how the responses come back. So because that paper did not really have a lot of information about this particular person, it says, I don't have any specific information, but the context mentions the name in relation to a theoretical framework regarding weight decay, but does not provide details of the person's background and specific statements made by them about weight decay. So that's because it has references to the article. But then from without RAG, if you see there's, I'm sorry, there's no, without more specific information and content, I do not understand who this is. There could be multiple individuals. I'll do my best to assist you in the further if you specify more information. So I'm gonna ask just one more follow-up question just to show that now you've had questions, right? Will it keep the context when you ask a brand new question? Is it continuing the conversation, or is it going like back to some scratch? So please tell me a little bit more about its theoretical framework was the question. So it is working. So it comes back. There's a lot of information, but the bottom line is based on information provided in the paper is giving you a very specific approach and also providing the source. Hey,
That's
where did I
awesome.
get this, right?
Right.
But without that, this is what we get is like, hey, without additional information, specific knowledge of domain, it's challenging in providing accurate details. So I'll pause there. I have one more paper that I can pull up, but it's exactly the same as the bottom line is if you have the context using RAG, then it's just a completely different conversation than going directly to OpenAI. So the whole takeaway for me is if you have an external knowledge like we did, we just loaded with a bunch of scientific papers, and you want to have very specific conversation, like with context, multiple questions. You can, like you said, you can talk to your data and it does not lose context, and you can ask follow-up questions and it continues the conversation, right? So any of those use cases, this will be a great tool to use.
Absolutely. And you also provided another glimpse into another power, right? Which is citing the source, right? It's very difficult for a general model to figure out where the information came from because it's not cataloged anywhere. But when you fed it to the RAG, you probably added that source. So now you can bring it back and say, hey, this is where this document gave that information. So that's another
And that's where
interesting use case.
you cut down on hallucinations, right? Like you're not like randomly making stuff up.
Right.
But it
It
also like
is
when
trying to
I asked for the books,
focus.
it didn't make it. Yeah. It just brings me back the same thing we talked about is the book GPT, where it says, hey, the brand new books are being released in it, and then it
Oh,
came up
your
with the whole
Amazon
book with that.
experience. Yeah, GPT Store. That was fun.
So those are the things you can avoid because this will only bring back information that is in its knowledge base and just not make up stuff, right? So I'm,
Correct.
I'm glad that
That's very key.
OpenAI didn't give us a whole bunch of nothing because it could have made up stuff, but it said, I don't know what you're talking about, which is good.
It's a great example of how the search technology now can go multimodal. Now you can talk to your data, right?
Perfect. I know we have out of time, but I just to set the stage, we're gonna deep dive a little bit more into RAG and fine tuning and the differences in the follow up episodes. I appreciate everybody's attention and walking through the demos. It was great, Balaji, what you showed. I think we will come back to it in a few months and see how things have changed and how our art is using it. So that's one thing that we do a countermeasure and how are the scrapers now reacting to it. So we'll keep
Right.
the we'll produce. Well, at least we'll update the audience on what is happening there because I think it's very important because there's a lot of angst around people misusing AI. So I think this is just one of those verticals where people are fighting. So it'll be great. So we will see you guys next time. Until then, everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.